My name is Mike Tantillo. I'm the District Attorney in Ontario County. This is Philip Povero, Ontario County Sheriff. In the back row, we have a number of investigators who worked on this investigation. Lee Martin, Brad Falke, Jackie Falke, Matt McDonald, all Sheriff's investigators that were intimately involved in the investigation of this matter. Basically, I think other than just letting you know that you're aware of what the charges are, I have copies of the indictments available for anybody that would like them. Sheriff Povero and I are here just would be happy to answer any questions that you may have to the extent that we're able regarding this matter.
I mean, the indictment's sketching out some of the charges, but can you tell us what happened at the motel in some kind of time sequence?
Well, I'm not going to be able to get into a lot of details. What I can tell you is that shortly before midnight on May 30th, a 911 call for assistance was made to the 911 center at the Sheriff's Office regarding a child that was having difficulty breathing. Obviously, Iona Brown was picked up by an ambulance very shortly after that and was pronounced dead realistically within a half an hour of that at Thompson Hospital. The autopsy revealed that in addition to a number of burns and bruises about her body, she had 3 separate skull fractures, which would have required 3 separate individual impacts to cause, and she had very serious brain hemorrhaging, bleeding in her brain, which is the factor that ultimately caused her death.
What was used to burn the baby?
We're not entirely certain. The injuries were examined by doctors at Strong Memorial Hospital, and the explanations given by Ms. Brown and Mr. Whitfield were found not to account for the types of burns that they observed, but the doctors have not been able to come up with a scenario or a theory that would explain them.
What did they say? What did they say happened?
Well, it's not for them to say what happened. What they indicated is that obviously the child had very significant burns, second-degree burns about her legs, to a lesser extent her vaginal area and buttocks. And although these burns are consistent with liquid burns, they're not 100% certain about the mechanism or manner in which they were caused.
You don't see murder cases too often here in Ontario County, and then you get one like this involving an infant and the extent of these injuries. How do you tackle this when you come across a case that's this disturbing?
Well, unfortunately, we've had a disproportionate number of child deaths and child homicides through the years. I don't think there's any question that these are more troubling for law enforcement than any other type of crime. Obviously, we have such innocent, youthful victims. But it's our job to do everything we can to see that a just outcome is results basically to bring some justice to the victims in these cases.
Those investigators and the deputies of the Sheriff's Office immediately, when notified through Thompson Hospital of this case, saw that this was obviously a serious matter and a suspicious death. And we found through the years that the police officers take a hard look and a hard approach toward any investigation like this with a child death, realizing that these members of our community are amongst the most vulnerable. And in this situation, it's the diligent work and collection of evidence that results in these prosecutions to try to protect bring to justice people who have done this to these infants who obviously cannot deal with it for themselves. This the incident occurred at room 27 of the Woodridge Motel, which is located on Lakeshore Drive in the town of Canandaigua. There was an ambulance call to that location at shortly before midnight on the 30th. About an hour later, the medical staff at Thompson Hospital notified the Sheriff's Office that the circumstances of this ambulance call and the resulting death of the infant appeared to be suspicious, and at that time an investigation.
I'm just wondering, did the crime occur at that present mall at the hotel? Do you know that?
Yes, it's the allegation is that the injuries that were inflicted on the child did occur at room 27 of the Woodridge Motel in the town of Canandaigua.
Do you know how long they were staying there?
I believe that they had been there for 3 to 4 months.
When you look at these injuries, how much did this infant suffer? I mean, these are horrific injuries to this child, and the child didn't die right away.
Well, obviously, the burns had to be extremely painful. Anybody knows that. And these burns were significant enough that a significant portion of her skin was sloughing off by the time she was taken to the hospital. As to the fatal injuries, which were the head injuries, obviously, death was not instantaneous. It appears that death was something that occurred over a progression of time, probably several hours. So, yeah, that's one of the extremely disturbing things about this case is how much this child obviously suffered in the last hours of her life.
People are going to see this and want to know why. What's the motive here? Why did this
It's
happen?
really not appropriate for us to comment on any motive.
Were there any drugs involved in this? Can you talk about Whitfield's history?
I can't really talk about his history. It would not be appropriate. I don't have any reason to believe drugs played a role in this event.
Is Mr. Whitfield the father of the child?
No, he's not.
The relationship, is it boyfriend-girlfriend? Is that what you're looking at?
They're both from Geneva, but they were at the motel in Tantillo for how long, you said?
A period of several months, it appears.
Do you know what they were doing there?
Well, that's where they were living at the time.
Neighbors there at the hotel said they heard a lot of arguing and shouting that night. Can you describe what was going on before the 911 call was made?
I would prefer really not to get into matters of evidence, what witnesses have said, or things of that nature. That's probably not be appropriate.
And who made the 911 call?
Heather Brown.
And she said,
Again, what she said is something that I don't think we should be commenting on.
In court today, you talked about the fact that she has 2 other children. Can you say where they are? And one of them was just born days ago?
Yes. Those children, I don't know where they are, but I know that as a result of family court proceedings, they have been placed in foster care.
Baby girl, what?
It's a girl, isn't it?
And
It's a girl. Sorry, both girls. Yes.
Both girls?
The
One-
new babies, they're both girls.
Yeah, when was the most recent child born?
About a week ago.
We could go Friday.
and it was 4 years old?
Yes,
And both in foster care?
yes.
so last Friday, the 17th.
A week ago Friday.
It appeared that Ms. Brown had tears in her eyes in court when I was an exam. Did she give you guys any sense of remorse when she was picked up this morning?
I think this morning when she was picked up, the indication at this point was that there was more alarm, more not understanding why she was being picked up rather than any sign of remorse. The incident seemed to take her by somewhat surprise that she was being arrested, and to the best of my knowledge, there was no significant outpouring of remorse at this point.
Generally speaking, we believe that the injuries were inflicted sometime in the afternoon of that day.
The burns first and then...
I don't know the order, but I would say that during the afternoon of that day is what we believe the sequence was.
So we're talking about a matter of hours between the initial injuries and the first.
The way I read the indictment, it seems that she's really being accused of neglect in the sense of once the injuries were sustained.
As the indictment makes clear, she's not charged with inflicting or causing the injuries. The charge that she's facing is predicated on her alleged failure to seek prompt medical attention when any reasonable caregiver would have recognized that serious injuries had been inflicted to this child.
Has Ayana's father been in contact?
I probably shouldn't be commenting about private conversations.
Both of these individuals have current criminal cases going on. Can you just speak a little bit to those? I believe Ahkeem had something to do with menacing, and then Heather Brown, you said there were investigations into possible welfare fraud with her?
The only things I can comment on are things that were stated on the record in court this morning. So
Okay.
from that standpoint, yes, Ahkeem Whitfield is facing a charge of menacing in the first degree from Geneva City Court that took place after the incident in this indictment. He had a preliminary hearing on that matter about a week or so ago and was held for action of the grand jury. The only matter I discussed with regard to Heather Brown was for bail purposes, and that was the fact that she is currently being investigated for several allegations of welfare fraud.